आपको ही बोलना है ना. ये प्रोफेसर टी बालगणेशन TDU.
इसके बाद आएगा ना.
हाँ सर, शाम को इंट्रोडक्शन ही नहीं देना होगा ना फिर. Good evening, everyone. I request you all to settle down. We will begin shortly. Meanwhile, I'd request you all to please keep your mobiles on silent mode.
Namaste and good evening. We will now begin the program for TDU's second convocation. I am Manoj.
And I am Batul.
We will be managing the proceedings this evening. Now, we will begin with a short invocation. I invite our colleague Madhuri to render it.
विघ्न विनाशक देवादिदेवा विघ्न विनाशक देवादिदेवा आदि सनातन देवा प्रथम पूज्य गणनाथा भवभयभञ्जन नित्यनिरञ्जन सिद्धि विनायक देवा मङ्गलदायक शम्भु मनोहर प्रथम पूज्य गणनाथा प्रथम पूज्य गणनाथा विघ्न विनाशक देवादिदेवा.
Thank you, Madhuri.
We will now officially start the proceedings for this evening. I request Dr. Bal Ganesh, the co-chair of our Board of Governors, to come and officially open the convocation.
Thank you. It's a privilege to be here, and on behalf of the Board of Governors, I declare the convocation open.
On behalf of Chancellors, Board of Governors, and staff of TDU, we extend a warm welcome to all our well-wishers, students, and their families. We are extremely pleased that Professor P. Balram, former Director of Indian Institute of Science, is present today as our chief guest. Professor P. Balram, a Padma Bhushan awardee, is an internationally acclaimed biophysicist who has made significant contribution to unraveling the structure and function of biologically active peptides. Currently, he is an emeritus professor at National Center for Biological Sciences. He is also well known for his writings and lectures for several decades on popularizing science and steering India's science education policies. Originally, this occasion was to be graced by Dr. Kasturi Rangan, but due to unavoidable circumstances, he is unable to join us. We are thankful to Professor Balram for accepting this role at the last minute. Also joining us today are our guest of honor, Her Highness Queen Pramoda Devi Wadiyar, Shri Rajiv Sethi, Founder Chairman of Asian Heritage Foundation. We welcome our DLEAT awardees, Dr. Sudha Gopalakrishnan, Dr. Subramaniam Ramdorai, Professor Ashok D.B. Vaidya, and Professor Patrick Whitney. We are also grateful for the presence of number of eminent personalities and dignitaries who have traveled to TDU to share in our success. Now I invite our Vice Chancellor to start with the convocation address.
Good afternoon or good evening, everybody. And I resonate, the welcome that has been given to all our guests of honor, the delegated bodies, the students, the faculty, and all those who are present here. The University of Transdisciplinary Health Sciences and Technology is mandated to promote transdisciplinary research and education, and its current focus is in health sciences, although its mandate is not limited to health sciences but grows across all the possible disciplines that are permissible in a university framework. The interpretation of transdisciplinary in knowledge circles is fluid. This university uses it in a cross-cultural or intercultural sense. Knowledge systems, in my view, even if they be based on universal principles, well-defined concepts, methods and processes, in my view, all knowledge systems are cultural products because they are constructed on different perspectives of nature and society. And universality is not exclusive or limited to any particular knowledge stream. Several cultures have generated knowledge systems that have universal attributes. Today, university education globally appears to have a monocultural content derived almost entirely from European and other Western cultural intellectual traditions. However, and this is my view, the test of any knowledge is not to be determined by its conformity to particular principles, methods, or concepts, but by assessing if competing theories and practices can consistently be applied to analyze, transform, and solve real-life problems. There are indeed several examples that demonstrate that civilizations historically have been influenced by the transmission and transfusion of knowledge across cultures. For example, zero and infinity is an Indian contribution. The sitar as a musical instrument, in fact, came from Iran. The Sanskrit language has influenced several Central Asian languages like Farsi, the European languages, and Old Russian. The potato has come from Peru and Bolivia. Plant drugs for a number of conditions have come from different ethno-medical traditions all over the world. All cultures are interconnected, just as the infinite diversity in nature across physical, biological, extraterrestrial planes is also interconnected. However, in the last 3 centuries, universities, school education, and social systems in most non-Western cultures in Asia, Africa, Central America appear to have got disconnected from their roots. This has had disastrous consequences on growth of indigenous knowledge, on ecosystems, on societal creativity, on economies, on languages and cultures. In TDU, we work only in one single domain at the moment, which is the health sciences. And we have experienced, over the last 30 years, we have experienced huge intellectual and creative benefits from connecting Ayurveda and biology. In fact, those two terms refer to the study of biological change, Ayurveda, biology, in living systems. But their perspectives are different. They are systemic and molecular perspectives, the systemic from Ayurveda, the molecular from modern biology, arising from different epistemologies, give rise to distinct principles, concepts, methods, processes. But our experience shows that the knowledge that they have generated is complementary. This is because it overcomes their limitations. Molecular understanding, despite powerful tools and incredible detail of change taking place at that cellular level, cannot be extrapolated to the whole system because of the complexity of the biome. Similarly, systemic perspectives are ignorant of changes that are taking place at the cellular or the micro level. I believe, and this is my opening statement about the university, I believe it is a transdisciplinary framework which combines the systemic and molecular perspectives of biological change that can perhaps advance the frontiers of health sciences in certain dimensions. So, thank you very much, and that's what I have to say today in my opening remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We will now hear a summary of programs and accomplishments from our deans. First, we invite Professor Gurmeet Singh, Dean Research and Outreach, to present his annual report.
Thank you, and a warm welcome to everyone. I'll very quickly, over the next 4 or 5 minutes, give a summary of what we've done over the last couple of years or so. So, next slide. I think one of the big changes we did over this year, we are a very small group here, right? About 40 plus faculty here. And we felt that to create the kind of impact that the university wishes, we need to organize, start focusing on a few themes. So we created a new structure, and that's kind of spelled out here. The 6 large program themes that we have: personalized nutrition, anemia, malnutrition, sustainable proteins, glucose and lipid metabolism, cognitive health, and animal health, right? And then the 3 infrastructural capabilities that we are building, each one of us is part of, whether we are building libraries of botanicals, the materia medica as we call them, whether it's a living collection or a herbarium or trying to characterize them. the formulations and functional foods that we then convert them into based on either textual knowledge or through creative experiments, and the 15 laboratories and pilot plants that we have set up now. I think cutting edge instruments, equipments in these facilities, which are allowing us to materialize the vision, to translate the vision of Ayurveda biology, the findings into knowledge and into products and formulations, and the clinicals and digital tools, partnering with the IM hospital, and novel tools such as body typing, wellness assessment, things that we are trying to, the way this is distinct from most other places is that we're trying to make these as mass tools. How could we do these at scale for every individual? And so therefore, how could we very dramatically cut down costs? And then there are the channels that we work through when we look at translation and creating impact in society. Next slide. So to be able to realize this vision, to work on it, we have a number of partnerships. And you would see that for a faculty size of 40, we have about 106 MOUs. That's quite substantial. Across research, education, social impact, industry, startups, a lot of global partners as well. Many of them who fund some of our programs. Next slide. Some of the key metrics, PhD students that we have in our program, we have always been almost like PhD first, I would say, when we started our vision. About 135 PhD students across the TDU ecosystem, which includes various other organizations mentioned there. And 59 PhD students which are registered where our own faculty are the main guides. And the quality work which is going on, just highlighted by some of the awards in poster presentations and what the students have presented in various forums. Right? So, next slide. The MSc programs, we started about 3 years ago with the Conservation Practices program with ATRI, then the MSc in Ayurveda Biology, and then the MSc by Research, which includes food science, bioinformatics, conservation, etc. And so we've about, I think overall about 150 or so, 140 or so MSc. And the reason I'm including this here is because each one of these is a project as well. So there's a research project, minimum 6 months up to almost 1.5 years in the 2-year program. And so that's the number of research thesis which comes out along with these degrees. Yeah, next slide. Publications, we've been about 23 to 25 publications all the 3 years. I would say that at least last year, 2023, we managed to bump up the ratio of number of peer-reviewed journals versus book chapters, etc. Our goal, of course, is to move up. I think over the next, hopefully by the time I'm here next year and 2 years from now, we'll have this number moved up to 40, 45, with the goal of at least 2 publications on an average per faculty year and move it up to 80, right? So, next slide. 3 years ago is when we really started our master's program, starting from almost 0 courses to now almost 80 plus courses that we have. And a lot of these, at least half of these courses are kind of unique courses to this place which have come out of the kind of research that we are doing. Right? And these research projects then translate into various food prototypes, various formulations, then that get into next slide, into community and clinical research trials. We have about 14 of those, 5 which we have completed in the last couple of years and 9 which are ongoing. So which again I feel for such a small size university, that's a very nice, very high ratio of clinical and community studies to the number of faculty that we have. Another, I think, I can't call it achievement, but good thing about our university and program is the industry connect that we have started building. Nearly 29 or so industry projects that we've had over the last 2 years. And our goal is if you're looking at creating impact, industry is certainly one of the partners, not the only partners, but one of the important partners. And that data tells us that we are beginning to attract industry attention as well. Yeah, next slide. And these are the various community programs. Right now, maybe the numbers are in the thousands, but our ambitions are big, and we would like to see these numbers achieve millions there. The anemia training program, where we are working with healers to get last mile connectivity, where the 3 tiers of public health are not as effective, right? So that's a focus area for us. The Ayurveda dietetics programs, where we are taking the Ayurveda biology information, our research learnings into a program for nutritionists and a program for dietitians. The Indian Culinary Science program, where the Indian Culinary Science has very distinctive features, and our research is deconstructing our Indian recipes to come up with what does Indian Culinary Science stand for. And we have a very successful culinary science program with demos and workshops. The forest, food forest community, which we have 10 locations where we are working with 600 plus industry technology demos and workshops, forest officers, another big area since we work with botanicals and plants, where we have worked with 547 forest officers at the IFS level, state level, range officer level, and the EVP outreach, right, which is one of the most successful outreach programs. Nearly 1 lakh treated animals, 34 disease conditions, 3,000 plus vets, 10,000 animal health professionals, 30,000 dairy farmers. So those are again some of the numbers that we've got over the last few years in terms of our outreach and directly to the community. Yeah. And I think with that, I'll end my brief update and hand it over to the education update. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing our current innovative research areas and new initiatives. Now I invite Dr. Leena Wadia, Dean Education and Outreach, to present her annual report.
Good evening. It's a very joyful day today because even though this is our second convocation, it's actually our first physical convocation. So we're delighted that everybody is here. And I'm going to put on a stopwatch so that I don't overdo my time. And So as you can tell from Gurmeet's update, we are primarily a research university. We are also a very young university. We were legislated in 2013, started work in 2015 with COVID in between. But we inherited a very rich legacy from our founding trust, the Foundations for Revitalization of Local Health Traditions. My voice is loud, I don't want it near. And we have tried our best to build up on it, and I think we have, we have several national firsts to our name thanks to the FRLHT tradition, and we plan to take it forward. So apart from the PhD and the MSc programs that you heard about from Gurmeet, education activity at the undergraduate level had been largely about certificate and diploma programs in multiple topics. Gurmeet mentioned 80 courses. So the topics range from contemporary things like next generation sequencing to topics that are very rare to hear about in universities like Hasti Ayurveda, which is the treatment of elephants, or ethno-veterinary practices, which is for animal health, or even acupressure, which is called Varmam. So many of our short-term courses belong to a category called Learning for Life, which is written here, or Lifelong Learning, or Learning for All. And our audiences also, as Gurmeet referred to, ranges from farmers, veterinarians, local, village-based traditional healers, nutritionists, chefs, forest officers, industry professionals, not to mention students and ordinary citizens. So that's the scope of our thing. Even in an area like Panchakarma, which is an area of our strength, we have given out well over 1,000 or maybe even 1,200, 1,500 certificates, mostly for Orissa government, actually, more than half for Orissa government, who have asked us to do this program for them on an annual basis. In October 2021, we were very lucky to have Dr. Kasuri Rangan flag off our first bachelor's undergraduate program in vocational education. We started BVOC in medical lab technology and medical imaging technology at a location in Nipani in North Karnataka with 250 students as our first batch. And simultaneously, we launched a BSc on campus in food processing because Gurmeet and his team have so much strength in food processing. Since then, so our BWOC model is something Mr. Ramdure knows very well. We borrowed it from TIS. It's a model that ran in TIS from 2014 till 2020. It's full-time apprenticeship based. And so the students get 3 years of work experience during their 3 years of BWOC, which is an edge over most other conventional bachelor's degree. Since then, we have expanded to many more locations. We had Nipani and we had Bangalore. Now we've added Mysore and Chellakere and Udupi, but the idea is to go to many more places in Karnataka, take education locally to people so that more women can join. So, our initial batches had 76% women. Now we have a better gender balance. We have 68% women, but that's it. In terms of numbers, we've admitted about 500 so far, 496 to be precise. We still have 217 students who need to graduate, and about 160 have graduated. So I'll stop the education update from there. No, we have our first batch of BWOC students graduating in September 24, so we're very excited about that actually. So I'll come back to outreach activities now, and as you heard from Gurmeet, we have the FRLHD helped to set up, in situ medicinal plants conservation. We set up about 108 sites for medicinal plant conservation, which now the government forest departments have taken, I believe, to more than 200. And then we also set up India's only national herbarium for medicinal plants. We have more than 60,000 specimens, and we also have a digitized database of medicinal manuscripts which spans over 3,200 years. So, and then Gurmeet also mentioned that we did a lot of work on ethno-veterinary practices, working with NDDB on animal health to reduce antibiotic residues in milk for human health as well as animal health. The last thing I want to talk about is the fact that the university supports the country's only grassroots network of village-based traditional healers across 20 states. We evaluate, document, and certify their knowledge in partnership with the Quality Council of India. And so the FRLHD owns the scheme, but TDU is the certifying body. And so far, I think we have touched about over 2,000 healers, but we've tried to speed it up. So in the last 3 months, we've done an additional 500 healers. These healers, the certification process is very rigorous. It's an ISO standard. They are certified for things like common ailments or birth attendance or jaundice or joint pains or snake bites, which is very common in rural areas. I think that the real opportunity and we know this, is with the healers is to be able to, once we are connected with them through the certification process, to be able to train them to become a 4th tier of community health workers who can supplement the work of ASHA workers, the primary, secondary, and tertiary healthcare infrastructure of the government. And so we are looking at, Gurmeet mentioned training them for anemia and malnutrition, but TB and malaria are good candidates for some of these things. So connecting all the dots between the education and the outreach that we do, I would say that what we are trying to do is to ensure health and nutrition security for everyone, but primarily for the poorest and the most disadvantaged people who live in very interior parts of India. We would love to throw livelihood security into the mix, but that's much more complex, needs more planning, lots of funding. So we'll save that for a while, but we hope to give you much more uplifting updates about health and nutrition security in future convocations. Thank you very much. I also wanted to supplement something that Gurmeet said, that we're doing research in Ayurveda biology. We also own and manage a journal on Ayurveda and integrative medicine. That's it's the place we go to for lots of knowledge on the subject, actually. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for sharing our current programs and initiatives. The next item on our agenda is the award of honorary degrees as Doctor of Literature to 4 eminent personalities. I request our chief guest, Professor Balram, and Vice Chancellor, Professor Darshan Shankar, to be seated on the stage.
For each awardee, we have requested a specific guest of honor to read the citation and hand over the award. We will hear from each guest and awardee in the following pairs. First, we will start with Professor Darshan Shankar for Dr. Subramaniam Ramdorai, then Professor Balram for Dr. Ashok D.B. Vaidya, Shri Rajiv Sethi for Patrick Whitney, for Professor Patrick Whitney, I apologize, and Her Highness Queen Pramoda Devi Vadiyar for Dr. Sudha Gopalakrishnan. Our first award is to Dr. Subramaniam Ramdorai. For this, we request the citation to be read by our Vice Chancellor, Professor Darshan Shankar.
I'm actually standing in for Sam Pitroda. He was to do this honors for Dr. Ramdorai, but he's recently had a small fall and all that, so he was not. Mr. Subramaniam Ramdorai is recognized as a visionary leader across industry, most well known there, equally well known in education and social welfare for his transformative impact and unwavering commitment to societal enrichment. After a distinguished career as the CEO of Tata Consultancy Services, TCS, he has played a pivotal role in elevating India's skill development landscape and fostering, through that skill development, socio-economic empowerment. He's been recognized with prestigious honors like the Padma Bhushan and the Commander of the Order of the British Empire, CBE, for his outstanding contributions to the IT industry, to Indo-British relations. Mr. Ramdorai epitomizes excellence in both national and global spheres. His dedication to cultural preservation through roles at the Kalakshetra Foundation and the Anvesha Trust underscores his commitment to nurturing traditional arts and driving positive societal change. An accomplished author and advocate for philanthropy and education, Mr. Ramdorai's diverse interests mirror a life dedicated to uplifting humanity. This DLIT is in recognition of his transformative leadership, far-reaching impact, unparalleled contributions and unwavering commitment to societal enrichment through IT innovation, philanthropy, and cultural preservation. Where's the award?
Thank you, sir. I now request Dr. Subramanian Ramdorai to come to the dais, and I request Professor Darshan Shankar. I request Professor Balram to hand over the award to Dr. Subramanian Ramdorai. I request Dr. Subramanian Ramdorai to speak few words. So please. Yeah, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear students, all the dignitaries, Professor Balram, Professor Darshan Shankar, first of all, I am deeply humbled and profoundly grateful to the honor bestowed upon me today by the University of Transdisciplinary Health Sciences and Technology. But hearing what was presented, only regret you have not spent enough time at the campus here, even though I visited once in the past along with my wife. I think it's so nice to be surrounded by luminaries whose contributions have significantly impacted their respective fields and enrich society as a whole. And I had the honor of working with many of the wonderful people present here today in my 5 decades long career. I would like to extend my heartfelt congratulations to my fellow awardees, Dr. Sudha Gopalakrishnan, Dr. Ashok Vaidya, and Dr. Patrick Whitney, whose work has left an indelible mark on our world. I worked together with Dr. Sudha Gopalakrishnan as part of the Sahapedia, a platform dedicated to India's cultural heritage. Her phenomenal work in preserving ancient manuscripts is a feat in itself. She was the mission director of the National Mission for Manuscripts, and is now a part of the project Samhita, South Asian Manuscript Histories and Textual Archive. She has created 3 successful nomination dossiers for the recognition of Kudiyattam, Vedic chanting, and Ram Leela as UNESCO masterpieces of the oral and intangible heritage of humanity. Her work deserves all the more appreciation in a year when India is set to chair UNESCO's World Heritage Committee for the first time. Dr. Ashok's unwavering commitment to healthcare embodies the spirit of service and compassion that can absolutely transform lives. And Dr. Patrick's contributions in advancing our understanding of public health has driven much innovation and progress in this field, and I wish all of them the very best in their future endeavors. While Sam is not present here, I wanted to say a few words about him because he had the vision with which the University of Transdisciplinary Health Sciences and Technology has been established. I've known Dr. Sam since the time when the telecom revolution in India was taking roots, and we all know that he helped establish the Center for Development of Telematics, CDOT, in 1984. This is a relationship of more than 4 decades. We have connected and collaborated multiple times over these 40 years. During my tenure as the chairman of the National Skill Development Corporation and National Skill Development Agency, he was in the National Knowledge Commission, and his ideas and thought leadership provided great impetus in scaling India's efforts towards becoming a knowledge society. We share a similar passion for technology, and we believe in India's immense entrepreneurial potential. Every startup innovation brings us exhilarating joy. I echo his thoughts and a quote from his book, Redesign the World, that technology has been the most significant social leveler in the world, second only to death. Technology-aided hyperconnectivity is the most disruptive innovation of the century, and it's enabling democratization of knowledge and decentralization of implementation, thus providing us with the most powerful and inclusive tools to redesign the world in a sustainable way. And in this redesigning journey, health and education are of utmost importance. It's said that when public health sneezes, the economy and everything else catches cold. If there is one lesson that we must take from the COVID-19 pandemic, it is this, that health is fundamental to stable societies and economies. My association with the Public Health Foundation of India has helped me to pin in this understanding further. PHFI has been working towards building a healthier India by strengthening education and training, advancing research and technology, and facilitating policy and practice in the area of public health. And I can say that TDU, with its pioneering educational efforts, can provide exceptional value to India's public health ecosystem. As we know, we are all living in a time of extraordinary change and uncertainty, from climate change and geopolitical crisis to pandemics and AI revolution. The world is absolutely becoming increasingly complex. At a time like this, it's important to remember that we are preparing the new generations for a future that we cannot possibly predict. To address this uncertainty and complexity, our future generations need to be flexible, adaptable, and innovative, and this can be achieved only through creative and original thinking. Hence, it is imperative that we integrate creativity in our education systems, research, entrepreneurial efforts, and workplaces. Creativity at its core is about introducing new ways of thinking. It's the process of having original ideas, solving problems, and building possibilities that are valuable within a particular context. This is achievable only when we provide an enabling environment for students to explore new ideas and perspectives, let them understand the interconnectedness of different domains of knowledge so that they can better comprehend the multifaceted complexities of the world that we live in, as well as the richness of the human experience. The future of learning is in breaking down barriers and embracing a holistic approach to knowledge acquisition that will eventually lead to boundless possibilities. In a world where siloed thinking has been proven to be inadequate to address the world's most pressing problems, it's necessary that we cultivate a new generation of scholars and thinkers who are fluent in the language of collaboration, holistic thinking, and exploration of knowledge in all forms. So only through transdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, and interdisciplinary approaches of learning that we can build an inclusive and a sustainable world. TDU's focus on the interface of Ayurveda and biology is truly visionary. By integrating ancient wisdom with modern scientific methodologies, we can unlock new insights into the mechanisms of the natural world and human bodies, paving the way for more effective solutions and personalized treatments. This educational initiative, which will not only contribute to health-care-centric human capability building in the country, but can also create path-breaking healthcare outcomes for millions of people around the world. Here it is critical to mention the impact of AI that will be experienced in every field. I was particularly happy to see the news that the World Economic Forum has entered into partnership with the government of Karnataka to set up a state-of-the-art center for AI. With the integration of AI and data analytics, with our various research efforts, there is potential to gain deeper insights into the complex health systems and issues, identify patterns, derive new knowledge from our knowledge bases and the natural world, and formulate more effective health strategies. Emerging technologies and Internet of Things are also offering opportunities to scale up healthcare accessibility and, in short, improve healthcare outcomes. It's essential that technology education be given due importance in every curriculum. As an industry leader in the realm of information technology, I have witnessed firsthand the incredible transformative power of technology and the collaboration guided by the right intent. Collaboration brings to mind the partnership between the Council of Scientific Industrial Research and TCS, which resulted in the development of the BioSuite, a comprehensive bioinformatics software that combined macromolecular sequence and structural analysis, chemoinformatics, and algorithms for accelerating drug discovery. BioSuite was highly valued for its scientific rigor and top-notch research capability and was a source of great pride for both TCS and the Indian scientific and academic community. As we look to the future, it's my fervent hope that we will continue to push the boundaries of knowledge, challenge conventional wisdom, use technology for human betterment, and make collaboration and mutual learning a way of life. Together, we have the opportunity to shape a brighter future for the world, one that is built on the boundless potential of collective knowledge and imagination. Last but not the least, I would like to congratulate all the students graduating today for this milestone. While today is a day of celebration for years of hard work and learning, it's also an important day to remind yourself that there's no end to learning. It's a proven fact that those who keep learning keep growing, and I urge each one of you to make self-learning a way of life. Once again, I extend my deep gratitude to all of you, the Honorable Chancellor, TDU, Professor Darshan Shankar, Vice Chancellor TDU, and the entire TDU community for this honor. Thank you so much, and thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. Our next award is to Dr. Ashok D.B. Vaidya. I request our chief guest, Professor Balram, to kindly read out the citation.
You know, it's a very special privilege for me to read the citation for Dr. Ashok Vaidya. You can't describe him with a subject. He's a polymath, a distinguished scientist and pioneer in the fields of clinical pharmacology, drug discovery, and Indian knowledge systems. I think Ashok Vaidya integrated both traditional and modern approaches to medicine a long time ago. He is renowned for his groundbreaking work in advancing biomedical research, integrative oncology, and Ayurveda. His remarkable career spans over several decades, marked by exemplary contributions to industry R&D, academic achievements, building of institutions, national health policies, rural health care, and developing future biomedical scientists. His life work has been recognized by numerous accolades. With visionary leadership, Dr. Vaidya initiated a new field coined as reverse pharmacology as a revolutionary paradigm to drug discovery from bedside to bench. He has led research that triggered new leads, modalities in the management of Parkinson's disease, diabetes mellitus, arthritis, hepatitis, malaria, and the development of antidepressants, tranquilizers, diuretics, antihelminthics, antiprotozoals, and antihypertensives. Two products, satronidazole and nitroxazepine, have been marketed as drugs. Dr. Vaidya has played a significant role in influencing a renaissance in Indian knowledge systems. His work over decades has had a profound impact on the scientific community and healthcare landscape, warranting recognition at the highest levels of academic distinction. He inspired the Vaidya scientist training programs in the country with far-reaching consequences. His critical application of the falsifiability approach to the sutras of Shastras is exemplified by the correlation of excessive salt intake to hyperacidity. Currently, he is collaborating in research on the molecular mechanism of phytoactives of Ayurvedic plant actions in cancer and neuroplasticity. Dr. Vaidya also has had a deep interest in yoga, spiritual and psychological studies, and the humanities. This DLIT is in recognition of his exceptional contributions to the realms of clinical pharmacology, Ayurvedic research, and advance of Indian knowledge systems through innovative approaches in drug discovery and development, as well as his mentorship, leadership, and transformative impact on multiple domains of medical science and academia.
Thank you, sir. Today, Dr. Ashok Vaidya could not be with us, but we are delighted to have his daughter, Professor Vidita Vaidya, who will accept the award on his behalf. Professor Vidita Vaidya is a senior professor and chairperson of the Department of Biological Sciences, TIFR, Mumbai. I request you to say something.
It's a rare privilege to receive something on your father's behalf. So, yes, I'm standing here in his stead. He would have loved to be here. TDU holds a little piece of his heart. And so he, gave me clear command. You need to go because I'm not able to. He's not well, so he's unable to make it. But he has sent a speech which I will read out on his behalf. Chancellor Dr. Sam Pitroda, hopefully he recovers very soon. Vice Chancellor Dr. Darshan Shankar, Professor Balram, distinguished honorable guests, eminent scientists, humanists, faculty, student, and staff of TDU, which hold a very special place in his heart. I express my deep gratitude for the award of honorary DLIT by TDU for our lifetime work in clinical pharmacology, reverse pharmacology, Ayurveda, and Indian knowledge systems. This award being given by Professor Balram has an added value. His stature in Indian science, scientific journalism, and at the Indian Institute of Science has been absolutely exemplary. We in post-independent India are called to a great and important challenge. The challenge is to bring ancient insights and modern discoveries into a synergy of understanding, exploration, and innovation. It is in meeting this challenge that an Indian Renaissance will flourish and have a global impact. We need to instill the sort of reverence for our ancient wisdom that is deeply based on our Upanishadic tradition of questions and answers. It is only that which you revere that you examine closely with the deepest of questions. TDU and KHS MRC have been the first to take up such a challenge. The challenges are loaded with potential opportunities in multiple domains of knowledge: physics, chemistry, life and health sciences, etc. What we need is scientific leadership that disapproves of knowledge chauvinism and imitative research methods. Currently, Indian science is facing a crisis in multiple directions. We often lack sensitive mechanisms to detect the earliest signals of innovative ideas, hits, and leads. We've lost a lot of our brain power to the West and our dependency on only a Western approach to scientific inquiry. Education in Indian knowledge system, which stays abreast of all the advances of current scientific training, could serve to reverse such a brain drain. There's an urgent need at the UGC and university levels to brainstorm and reimagine such a change with dynamic and fluid curricula. Lastly, I would love to stress the need for an integrative vision in research across systems, disciplines, and institutions, and that's what TDU is doing. Recently, I've written on such an integrative vision, how it can accelerate research progress for major health challenges, including cancer. Reverse pharmacology and observational therapeutics provide broad approaches and methodology for such a research path. I wish and pray that our major research institutions, centers, do not miss out on a golden opportunity of exploring a path that brings together ancient insights and modern discoveries. I once again thank the TDU for this prestigious award and to our dedicated group of scientists, with me being a nimitta. Jai Hind. That's his message. And thank you, Professor Balram. This is a rare privilege to be able to pick this up from you on my dad's behalf. Thank you, Professor Darshan Shankar, as well.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We can see your excitement as a proud daughter. Congratulations to you and Professor Vaidya. Now, our next award is to Professor Patrick Whitney. For this, we have requested the citation to be read by Sri Rajiv Sethi. A brief introduction of our guest of honor, Sri Rajiv Sethi. He is an internationally acclaimed scenic designer and art curator. It is likely that majority of us here today have enjoyed his work and not known about it. The Jai Hai GVK Museum at Mumbai's International T2 Terminal. Scattered throughout the 4 levels of Terminal 2, it includes more than 5,500 pieces of Indian art and handicrafts, including tribal totem poles and 3D maps of Mumbai built from recycled chips and circuit boards. Sri Sethi is also the founder chairman of Ancient Heritage Foundation, a non-profit, non-governmental organization with concerns encompassing the cultures, traditions, public affairs, arts, and science of all regions of Asia. Sri Sethi is a Padma Bhushan awardee amongst others. I now invite Sri Sethi to come on the stage and read the citation for Professor Whitney.
I felt deeply privileged to read about Professor Patrick Whitney. He's recognized globally for his transformative leadership and pioneering contribution at the intersection of design, public health, and societal well-being. With an illustrious career across renowned institutions such as Harvard C.H. Jung School of Public Health, Brown University, and the Institute of Design, Illinois Institute of Technology, Professor Whitney's visionary initiatives have reshaped the discourse and practice of design across diverse domains. Championing human-centered design methodologies, Professor Whitney led pioneering program, including the USA's first PhD program in design and the transformation of master's program towards human-centered and strategic design, amplifying the depth and structure of design knowledge. Professor Whitney, impactful research, supported by organizations like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and USAID, illuminates the potential of structural design methodologies to enhance health, happiness, and prosperity in rural communities. Recognized with prestigious accolades such as the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Hong Kong Design Center, he remains a beacon in fostering design competencies, advising global corporations and governments worldwide, and shaping governance through design-led strategies. His multifaceted engagements, from keynotes at prestigious summits to advising senior government officials, underscores his dedication to embedding design principles in addressing societal challenges and advancing human-centric solutions. The DLIT is in recognition of his extraordinary leadership, pioneering research, exceptional contributions, and enduring impact on design's convergence with public health and societal advancement, and his profound legacy. We look forward to listening to some of this in your own words, sir.
Now I request Professor Whitney to please come on the dais and accept his award. I request Professor Whitney to please share his remarks.
I'm honored to be here. I'm not quite sure I know the person that you described. Thank you for the kind words. India has a very special place in my heart. I love being here, so thank you for bringing me here for that. As part of the context of what do I do here is we are looking at village life in Jharkhand and trying to develop ways for the villagers to learn and teach principles of economic development. It's very interesting. You know, those of you who have any connection with design know that there's makers and users. It's fundamental to the way we think of things. It seems like a large number of people in the villages in the Northeast don't think of people that way or things that way. They don't think of using and making as being different from each other. That's fundamentally questioning the principles of design as we normally do it. So it's having opportunities like that that make me want to keep coming back. There are several forces at play that make design more relevant. The previous comments by everyone here talk about the need for an end to the ignoring of softer areas of knowledge, or the area of not paying attention to people's values and people's emotions, which have a big effect on whether things succeed. The forces that are at play are large and can be described in many ways. I'm going to describe them in this way. We've shifted from an economy of scale to an economy of choice. That doesn't mean that scale isn't important, but it does mean that the driving force of innovation is moving towards complete decentralization. Think of the difference between a network structure of knowledge and a hierarchical structure of knowledge and systems. As an aside, this is more than an abstract idea. The structure of the German railroad system in the Second World War was that it was built in an ad hoc way with connections made between this town and that same town and another town, etc. It was like a fishing net. The French system was like a star, with Paris, of course, in the center, and then going out in straight tentacles, the structure of transportation for France. It was very easy for the Germans to kill the French railroad system because it was hid anywhere near the center, you're affecting a large number of people that grow, that use it. In the network system that the Germans had, you could take out the capability of the railroad in any of the areas, and the system would keep working. You could still get from any town to any other town. So that's a very practical and important thing to think about if you're in the middle of a war, which we seem to be again. So there's a way of thinking where, I guess it's called nonlinear thinking, where it's not hierarchical on straight lines, but the things are connected with each other. So the economy of scale was made for people like Henry Ford to shine, people who saw big systems that were deterministic, that were linear, and you could predict what was going to come out at the other end. And in 1908, the Model T started, and it sold about 80,000 cars that year. 12 years later, it sold just a little bit less than 1 million cars. And that was to do with the brilliance of Ford's linear thinking about how production works. But that doesn't work anymore. When Steve Jobs gave Hartmut Esslinger, the German designer, the design brief for the Apple II, not the Apple II, the first Macintosh, all he said to him when he met with Helmut was, Bob Dylan. How do you count what Hartman did with the body of knowledge surrounding Bob Dylan? You know, it's thinking of Ford and Jobs as bookends of the 20th century. We're stepping into an area that is filled with uncertainty, as we talked about earlier today. And our answer to this problem is that executives and politicians are going to have to calm down, take a deep breath, lie down and think about it for a bit, and realize that the world is a truly uncertain place. The only reason it seemed certain in the 20th century is because we had the means to bring millions of people into the middle class. And companies, you could build huge companies that would increase the risk of failure tremendously. And meanwhile, brilliant people were inventing fields like demographics, were inventing fields like marketing, which were all to do with the sales of things to get to people, get things to people. And so you could design big factories and you could predict what was going to come out. In fact, it was so important to predict right answers that in many companies it was bad to exceed your objectives. It was bad to serve more people than you were used to doing. So the way these organizations work is they run by what I think of as algorithmic systems. Systems where they know they have the knowledge of what the things are, they have the knowledge of how they interact with each other. And that is so compelling to people who want certainty that they brush aside things that the company knows are important, or things that the health system knows are important, because they can't count them. What's the phrase? If you can't count it, you can't manage it. There's another one to do with counting that's relevant, which is everything that you can count doesn't count. And everything that you can count doesn't count. That's Einstein, said in a much more eloquent way than what I just did. So what we need to create is a parallel map of behavior. Behavior that's driven by emotion, culture, aesthetics. It doesn't replace the algorithmic map. What we need to do is, but it's not the same thing, it's not a replication of it. It's softer, it's less deterministic, often more truthful. And what we need to do is find ways of connecting parts of the behavioral system to the algorithmic system that gets things done. So back to our work in Jharkhand, what we're trying to do is learn from the villagers. We don't for a minute think we're going to come up with a solution that they will be able to use. But we do think that we have an approach to learning that they can use, and that they can bring that relevance and that truth of their lives into the huge pools of money the Indian government spends on helping improve life in villages. And I think this blending of the relatively unstructured, usually much deeper knowledge of behavior with the incredible power of algorithmic thinking and evidence-based work is about the only thing we can do to get out of the mess we're in. You know, the world is becoming more dictatorial. The world is becoming more economically divided. Poor people are becoming more aware of that they're poor. And the whole thing's going to fall apart if we don't do something to fix it. So that's why I come to India, and why I'm grateful for you inviting me, and why it's so important for the students here to do what you want to do, because there's probably no field more than public health that needs interdisciplinary thinking. And as soon as we solve the problems of public health, that's a joke, there are more than enough problems that we face that we need the combination of behavioral systems and algorithmic systems to make it a better world. So thank you for your invitation, and thank you for this event. It's very good.
Thank you, sir. Next, we will hear from Her Highness Pramoda Devi Vadiyar, the Queen Mother of the royal family of the former Kingdom of Mysore. Her Highness's life and action even today reflect her steadfast commitment to service her people. Her exemplary courage in discharging the duties of the royal family when her husband unexpectedly passed away is inspiring. Her Highness is well known for her effort in revitalization of Indian knowledge tradition, a task graciously performed for centuries by the royal household. TDU is proud of the Wadia Library of Indian Medical Heritage, seeded and supported by Her Highness. Her Highness could not be with us in person and has sent us a recording of the citation for Dr. Sudha Gopal Krishnan. I request Vinay to play the message.
I am pleased to read the citation for Professor Sudha Gopalakrishnan, a stalwart in preserving and promoting Indian and South Asian cultures. As Executive Director of the International Research Division at the India International Center, her vision fosters intra-Asian dialogue and cultural understanding. Professor Sudha oversees Samhita, South Asian manuscripts and textual archive, digitizing South Asian manuscripts globally. At Sahapedia, decade-long leadership of Professor Sudha democratizes cultural knowledge through an open online platform benefiting a worldwide audience. As a former mission director for the National Mission for Manuscripts, her stewardship preserved over 2 million manuscripts, accessible via namami.org, enhancing global heritage repositories. A distinguished scholar in comparative drama, Professor Sudha champions cultural preservation, having guided UNESCO's recognition of cultural expressions such as Kutiyattam and Ramlila. Her advisory roles in national and international institutions, coupled with scholarly publications, including insightful books and papers, enrich the discourse on Indian heritage. This delit is in recognition of her exceptional leadership, unwavering commitment, and profound contributions to safeguarding and promoting India's and global rich cultural heritage and legacy. I am pleased to read the citation for Professor Sudha Gopalakrishnan, a stalwart in preserving and promoting Indian and South Asian cultures. As Executive Director of the...
Thank you, Your Highness. I request Dr. Sudha Gopal Krishnan to come on the stage. In absence of Her Highness, I request our chief guest, Professor Balram, to hand the award to Dr. Sudha Gopal Krishnan. Now I invite Dr. Sudha Gopal Krishnan to share her remarks.
Distinguished, I have a slight throat problem, so I may not be very distinguished Professor Bal Ganesh, Board of the Transdisciplinary University, and Chief Guest Dr. Balram, the Executive Director of the earlier Executive Director of the Indian Institute of Science, Art Curator and that's better. Art Curator and Chairman of Asian Heritage Foundation, Dr. Rajiv Sethi, Mr. Ramdure, Dr. Ashok Vaidya, who is not here, but his daughter is representing him, Dr. Patrick Whitney, Dr. Darshan Shankar, the staff and students and faculty at the TDU. I am extremely privileged and honored to be standing here today, receiving a recognition that I feel perhaps is undeserved for me, but which I accept with great delight and humility. I am aware that this award is being given by a university aptly called transdisciplinary, which calls for bringing together multiple fields of knowledge and into close interaction with each other. I take this opportunity to compliment to Professor Sam Petroda and Dr. Darshan Shankar and all the faculty here and management of this wonderful institution. And for the last 2 decades, I have been associated with this institution and I've seen this excellent work rather closely, off and on, of course. And I know that this is a full-fledged research institution which is scaling its potential every year by year, and which I just saw with the working that it was explained today. So I also felicitate two eminent people, Mr. Ramadore, with whom I had a long association through Sahapedia, and whom I admire for his multifaceted work and wide-ranging interests, Dr. Ashok Vaidya, who has done intensive research in complementary and modern medicine, and also Dr. Patrick Whitney in the several areas that that it was being talked about today, including structural design. And I think with all this kind of transdisciplinary contributions, this award certainly makes it very worthwhile for me, and I accept it with thanks and deep humility. When I look back at what got me here today, I have several people and circumstances to be thankful for. Starting out in Kerala and nurtured by my enlightened parents, who exposed me to the pleasures of the language and literatures, especially of Sanskrit and Malayalam to start with, and also learning the poetry, the pre-modern poetry of Mani Pravalam, and these were the research interests for me right from an early age, and also experiencing the wonder of arts and performing arts like Kathakali and Kodiyatam. And all this, I think in one sense, Sanskrit and Malayalam became the base for me to look at the world in a different light. And that's where I think traditional knowledge, I understood the importance and the relevance of traditional knowledge in today's education. When I used to go to school and I used to go to college, it used to be such a misfit in one way, because I mean, there is this big corpus of knowledge that is there, but in curriculum that one studied, there was nothing was available. It was very, very flat, and also some snippets here and there which did not satisfy at all. So that was a big problem right from my early age to me. My world became wider when I followed my husband, a civil servant, to the north of India, working with national institutions like the Sahitya Academy and the Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts gave me an opportunity to look at the wider spectrum of what is culture, what is heritage, and I also record my thanks to Dr. Kapila Vatsyayan for her wide-ranging leadership and wide-ranging interest that I understood at that point of time. And then when I could steer the National Mission for Manuscripts, this was a very, very different ball game, I would say. It was a revelatory experience for me, enriching also. I had at that time, nobody knew, the government decided that we have to have manuscripts are going away at a very high speed, and we have to do something to do it in a mission mode. And at that time, it was, I think, the culture minister. It was also, I think, the mission was inaugurated by the then Prime Minister of India. So it had a big billing, but they didn't know, none of us knew how to go about it. So what we started was, we made meetings in north, west, east, and south, asking people, gathering scholars and repositories, and asking what would they like us to do. Some people said that we don't have any information, there are no catalogs of manuscripts, we cannot have a concerted understanding. Some people said we would like to have conservation. Conservation is very important. These manuscripts are all going in the next minute, by the next century or the next decade, they will all perish. Some people said, no, I think for longer term preservation, they have to be digitized. So all these things work together. And the other thing was that there was no understanding among people about the scripts in which they were written. Many of them were in Sanskrit, many in Persian, many in the regional languages, but how does one read them, because they are written in different scripts? And in a recent exhibition that we had done in the India International Center, we listed more than 45 scripts in which Indian manuscripts are written, of which Brahmi and Kharoshti are just one of them. There are so many in the regional languages. So how does one even get to this? So one important thing was to do paleography and so reading scripts, and that was another parallel activity. So all these went side by side, and I'm happy to say that at the end of my stint there, we had documented more than more than 2.7 million manuscripts, and now I think they have the mission has done more than 4.7 manuscripts at a very modest estimate of about 10 million that are available all over the country in repositories like archives and libraries and institutions of temples and monasteries, and it was a very wide-ranging, but we associated with more than 600 institutions at that time, gave them some kind of financial support to do the cataloging, and then the central catalog was compiled at the center at the National Manuscript Mission. So all this work happened, but I think what needed to be done, I think more than all this, is that it had to be connected to education. Many people were talking about the relevance of education today. If scripts are not, people don't know the scripts, if young people don't take it up as a mission, how does it ever come to people? What will happen to the next generation? Now we are, I think, at a stage when this is the time when we have to come together as a societal program to take this forward to the next level. I think for that matter, there are these national or state level institutions, and there are important institutions, but there are also very small archives, personal archives, some in temples, some in, so how do you, there may be many manuscripts that are very, very key to understanding what we talk about as India's great culture. How do we get to them? So first thing I think is important is to have people take it up as a mission, and I mean this very seriously. People take it up not as a mission alone, but to do archives, to help archives, help them with the same kind of help that was given in these national institutions. Only then it can gather into a kind of big momentum to save the textual heritage that we think we have. And I'm very delighted that with the FRLHT, we had done a program of medical manuscripts far back, I think about 15 years back. And I think that was again an eye-opener. It was not just in Ayurveda, but in all the other smaller or rather lesser known systems also had manuscripts. One example I will cite, and I think I should move on. One person asked me, she had a problem with her eyes. So she asked me at that point of time, how many manuscripts have you seen on eye treatment? Are there manuscripts that you in your database? When I looked at the database, I was stunned to see that there were more than 600 original manuscripts. I'm not talking only about Sanskrit. I'm talking about Oriya, I'm talking about Tamil, I'm talking about Malayalam or Marathi, and even all the other Northeast languages. There were more than 500 manuscripts only on eye treatment. They were called Netra Chikitsa Vidhi, all kinds of names, but none of them, I think in that corpus, I don't know how many were interpreted, how many were seen by people also. So we have something there that I think we need to be more serious about, and this is my submission with regard to the manuscript mission. Sahapedia was another great experience under Mr. Ramdure's very able guidance. It was a kind of thing in which we try to connect the wisdom of the elder people who had knowledge of any kind. He or she can be a terracotta maker, he can be a big Sanskrit scholar or a performing artist or a whatever. We requested a person who knew about that person's contribution and asked them to engage in a conversation for about 8 hours or 6 hours or 2 days or whatever. And they did that, and all that knowledge we have now. We have more than about 500, 600 of such interviews in Sahapedia. But that's only one of the things. I think Sahapedia was this pool of knowledge in which is created by people who own that heritage. So that's what it makes different from somebody who's writing, coming from somewhere, parachuting from somewhere, reading about it and writing about it. It was not like that. People who had the core knowledge became the writers, or if they write in some other language, doesn't matter. We translate it to Hindi or to English So that was another big opportunity that I had. And also young people were so happy to come together to to understand this. And if we don't, actually now we always escape this litany of complaints saying that the new generation is gone, nobody's interested. Now I can see examples here itself. Young people are interested, but you have to give it in a way that excites their imagination, their understanding. So I think maybe the screens, the medium may have changed from a textbook, or before that oral tradition, to textbook, to print culture, and now to the digital medium. But the core knowledge is there, and it's how we transmit and transmute that into the next generation. So these are some of the words that I wanted to say. I am again thankful to TDU for giving me this honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your heartfelt and relatable remarks. And thank you, Professor Balram and Sri Sethi, for graciously giving away the awards. We will move to the next segment now. We will begin with the award of degree to our students. The order of the degree shall be the following. First, our PhD awardees, followed by master's degree, and finally diplomas. We request our PhD awardees who are present in the audience to kindly assemble in a line at the center of the stage. I request all the PhD awardees, and I request the volunteers to make sure we have 18 new PhDs to confer in this convocation. As you will hear today, these PhDs reflect our mission to provide a platform for transdisciplinary research. The thesis topics go all the way from basic molecular biology to Indian philosophy. To hand out the PhD degrees, I invite Professor Darshan Shankar. I request the students to approach the dais when your names are being called out.
Our first awardee is Mohammad Shafi K, and the title of the thesis is Comparative Study of Two Moringa Species Using Omics Approaches. Our next awardee is Deepankar Khanna. The title of the thesis is to determine if the practice of moral ethical codes, yama and niyama, affect crafting creativity and authentic happiness in children between 7 to 12 years of age. Our next awardee is Vijay Kumar K. And the title of thesis is Characterization and Interventional Strategies in Novel Transgenic Rat Model of Autism Spectrum Disorder. Our next awardee is Michelle Ninochka D'Souza. Title of thesis is Understanding the Translation Regulation of Fragile X Mental Retardation Protein through its interaction with the ribosome. Our next awardee is Nivedita Hariharan. Title of thesis is Exploring Ribosome-Mediated Translation Regulation in Mammals. Our next awardee is Asha Lata KL. Genomic and transcriptomic analysis of Ficus religiosa reveals insight into carbon fixation pathway and neural disease pathway. So, Asha Lata's brother is on behalf of Asha Lata. Our next awardee is Shivanand Basappa Sawadgi. Title of thesis is Exploring Self-Reliance in Primary Health Care Among Families and Communities Using Traditional Medicine in Karnataka and Kerala. Our next awardee is Karwa Hinal Bhupendra. Title of thesis is The Neural Basis of Host Shift in Rhagoletis pomolina.
Thank you, Professor Darshan Shankar. I now request you to kindly be seated. As the rest of the candidates are... Oh, my apologies. We have one more candidate. And... yeah, my apologies. We were not having this. Okay, Subhashini Pandey, and the title of thesis is Developing Nanofibrous Sheets to Scavenge Storage Lesions to Enhance the Quality and Shelf Life of Stored Red Blood Cells and Prevent Transfusion-Related Complications. Okay, so now we have completed the people who were present today, and we will move on to the people who are not present with us today, and I'll call out their names. Snehashish Mitra, and the title of thesis is Forest in City, Contested Informal Settlements on the Hills of Guwahati. Deblina Sen Basu, Role of Fragile X Mental Retardation Protein in Lung. Niharika Sharma, Parasamvit and Pratyabhigna, an onto-epistemic inquiry in Trika philosophy. Ashni Kumar Dhavle, Monkey on a Hot Tin Roof, Ecological and Behavioral Adaptations of Lion-Tailed Macaques to a Rainforest Anthropogenic Habitat Matrix in the Western Ghat Mountains of Southern India. Umar Farooq, Interplay between enhancer hierarchies and histone demethylase, JMJD3. Vinay Mahajan, Analysis of hospital-based Ayurvedic clinical practice to gain real-world data knowledge. Dipanita Sarkar, Role of Schizophrenia-Associated Transcription Factor TCF4 in mature neurons. Shaima Amtullah, Muslim Childhoods Amidst Discourses on Nationalism in India, a Critical Social Psychological Approach. Muhammad Sharik, Investigating Role of Transcription Factor 4, PCF4 in Adult Neural Stem Cells. We will now hand out Master of Science degrees. As Dr. Leena Wadia has already mentioned, this year marks a first for 2 master's programs at TDU. Keeping to our mission and vision, both the programs reflect the unique position TDU occupies in the education space in India. The Masters of Science in Life Sciences with specialization in Ayurveda biology is the first in our country to offer training in both contemporary biomedical sciences and Ayurveda in an integrative, immersive manner. It seeks to augment India's capacity for evidence-based traditional medicine for clinical practice, industrial application, and research. Anchored at ATRI, the Masters of Science program in Environmental Science with a specialization in conservation practice seeks to develop a cadre of professionals with a holistic approach to conservation that is rooted in practice as much as in theory. We will start with the awards for Masters of Science, Life Science with a specialization in Ayurveda biology. We request those students who are present in the audience to kindly assemble in the middle. I request the volunteers to make sure. I request Dr. Leena Wadia, Dean Education and Outreach, to hand over the awards. I request each student to please approach the dais when your names are being called out. Hari Krishnan M. Rishita Gorityala. Jyotish G. Nair. Sabrina Elsa Epen. Sandra Das. Shri Vidya Vatsal. Varsha KP. Vikrant Chandel. I request ma'am to be seated now. The rest of the awardees are not present in person. We would like to acknowledge these students. Aman Thakur. Asmita Dogra. Himanjali Dimri. Ravina AR. And Saurav Thakur.
Next, we are pleased to announce the names of students awarded a Master of Science in Environmental Science with the specialization in conservation practice. I request Dr. Atul Kumar Gupta, Registrar and COO of TDU, to come on the stage. We request those students who are present in the audience to kindly assemble in the middle of the auditorium. Our first student is Anuja A. Harshit Mishra. Ritik Bhatnagar. Jayashri Borgohen. Manoj Kumar. Priyanka Prakash. Rohan Sharma. Rishad Irani. Ran Satish. Shankar Narayan. Shweta Mishra. वर्णिका वाल्वेकर, विधात्री ठक्कर, जोहा मेहदी, नवीन एम, rest of the awardees are not present in person. We would like to acknowledge these students. Aniri Devar, Akhil Shivdas, Mridil Ganguly, Navita Varsha, Presi Shweta, Sarumati N, Varsha Solanki.
Next, we are pleased to announce the names of students awarded MSc by Research. This degree is for self-driven students seeking a domain-specific education that allows them considerable flexibility to follow their passion. I request Professor Gurmeet, Dean Research and Outreach, to hand over the awards. We request those students who are present in the audience to kindly assemble to the middle of the auditorium. Please approach the dais when your names are being called out. For this convocation, we have 3 awardees. First is Mahalakshmi. Next, Manasvi CM. She is represented by her proud parents. Next is Ashutosh Sharma. I think he is not with us today. I request sir kindly to be seated. Thank you, sir.
Next in our list are awards for diplomas. We recognize 2 individuals, Keduf for PG Diploma in Ayurveda Biology and Malvika VS Diploma in Food Science Technology and Innovations. We will now recognize individuals receiving skill-based diplomas. TDU is proud to support 2 courses that seek to nurture traditional practices which otherwise would not receive formal certification. For reason of time, we will not be handing out the diplomas physically. Instead, we will acknowledge the recipients on the screen. To begin with, we will award diplomas for Hastyadi Ayurveda Visharad. This course, as you may have guessed, has something to do with elephants. For Hasti in Sanskrit is elephant. This course deals with the traditional methods associated with taking care of elephants in addition to other animals. This course was conducted at TDU in collaboration with Guruvayur-based GT NGET Trust and meant for Ayurveda graduates who interested in specializing in animal care. I request the audience to congratulate the students with a round of applause.
Next, we recognize individuals who have completed a diploma as Varmam therapist. Marma in Sanskrit and Varmam in Tamil is an ancient indigenous acupressure tradition. In the past, this art form was taught to healers and soldiers for the knowledge of the pressure points that allows one to heal or to harm. It is believed that wormum is the basis of acupuncture innovation in China. Today, it is a dying therapy, and only Tamil Nadu has outstanding practitioners. TDU's diploma allows practitioners of broad eligibility, from folk healers to physiotherapists, to learn the marma techniques and incorporate it into their practices. The following individuals, which are displayed in the screen now, received a diploma as wormum therapists. I request audience to congratulate the students with a huge round of applause. Moving on, we will next hear the convocation address by our chief guest, Professor Balram. I invite Professor Balram to kindly address this audience.
Good evening. I'm here as a substitute for Dr. Kasturi Rangan at relatively short notice, and therefore you will see that I have not come prepared with a written convocation address. Substituting for Dr. Kasturi Rangan, I can imagine what the Indian batsman who substituted for Virat Kohli in the recent Test series would have felt, because he would in fact talk on almost any subject that he has to. I have, of course, been a professional scientist locked up in a laboratory for a very long time, and I am a practitioner of what Darshan categorized as Western science. And almost all of us are products of what one would characterize as a Western education. In many ways, when you think about TDU, you really think about two people, Sam Petroda and Darshan. It is their vision, really, which has led to the creation of this institution. And the institution itself is relatively young. It's about a decade old, a little more if you count 2013, a little less if you count 2015. And a decade is a very short time. And it's remarkable to see the extent of progress that has been achieved in the last 8, 9, 10 years. And of course, one must pay a great tribute here to the people who have held the institution together, because I do know that it is not very easy for institutions outside the public sector, and which are in fact not profit-making organizations, to actually survive in the present environment. And it's a real tribute to both Sam Petroda and Darshan Shankar that the institution has come to this level. I must also congratulate all the students here who've got their degrees, because having been in academia all my life, I know that there's nothing that pleases students more than the day on which they get their degrees, because then they're really through and the transition has begun. Now, as a chief guest at a convocation, you're supposed to say something. And you have, as Darshan said, you can reflect on something other than TDU itself. What can one reflect on if you're a scientist? You can reflect on science. And if you're a popularizer of science, then sometimes you get asked these very difficult questions, mostly by children. If you have managed to succumb to the invitation to speak in a school or something, then of course you're in real trouble, because somebody will ask you, what is science? Then you don't know what to answer. You say science is the study of nature. And then of course promptly there will be another question which will come, which will say, what is nature? And now you really have to think. And sometimes very difficult to define what nature is. So I did search the literature for a definition of nature. And to do this, what I did was I went back to volume number 1 of the science journal Nature, because I thought when they were starting a journal, they must have defined why they gave it the name Nature. And on the very first page, there's an editorial written by the famous biologist Thomas Huxley. So the journal had commissioned Huxley to write the editorial. Huxley didn't write the editorial. What he did instead was he translated from the German an essay written by the German poet von Goethe in the 18th century. And why I say 18th century, the 18th century was just a little bit right at the beginning of what is the revolution in Western science. And it's just a little bit before chemistry began. Physics was already on its way a little bit, but much of the rest of science was to come in the 19th century. And what did Goethe say? He says, nature, we are surrounded by her, we are embraced by her, we cannot separate ourselves from her. So when we study nature, that's science, we study everything. We study medicine, we study physics, we study chemistry, we study biology, all these are necessary. Now you might ask, without worrying about what is traditional and what is modern, what have we learnt? And I wondered what we've learnt, but then I remembered that when you learn physics, many times, although you don't read the volumes themselves, you're always referred to the Feynman lectures. And the Feynman lectures is a series of lectures given by Richard Feynman at Caltech in the 1960s. And Feynman, volume 1, chapter 1, will begin with a declarative statement. It will say, matter is made up of atoms. And that's all he'll say. Then he'll go on to ask a question. He says, if all of scientific knowledge were to be destroyed in some cataclysm, what will be the one piece of knowledge that you would like to pass on to the next generation of creatures so that they can start all over again building this large edifice of modern science? And Feynman will answer this question, because the cataclysm he was thinking of then was nuclear war in the 1960s. But it's a cataclysm you might still think about a little bit if you're young, because if Mr. Putin has his way, it's not too far away. And therefore, we must worry about it. And when Feynman answers his question, he says he believes that it is the atomic hypothesis and that all matter is made up of atoms. And in some way, it's the study of matter or the study of everything around us. Everything is matter. I was trained as a chemist, and of course, chemistry is not a very popular subject. And very many times chemistry is associated with noxious chemicals, pollution, and all kinds of nasty things. But of course, you might ask yourself the question, is there any material around you that is non-chemical? And you will find every material around you, including yourselves, is chemical, and therefore you must study it. Not always that one appreciates chemistry, because some years ago the Bombay High Court, and in India almost all judgments are passed by the courts and they're important, and the Bombay High Court declared steam is not a chemical. And after that, the Royal Society of Chemistry gave a prize, offered a prize of £1 million to anybody who will bring them a substance that is not a chemical. And the prize is still open, and I hope some of the graduating students will in fact take this prize. Because when you think about integration, and when you think about a holistic way of thinking about everything, it's really, you need to think about the parts before you think of the whole. Sometimes you think of the whole, and sometimes you think of the parts. Today, even in modern biology, which is not traditional, it's post-Darwin, let's say, in our institutions, the people who practice organismal and evolutionary biology are as separated from the molecular and cell biologists as Ayurveda practitioners are from the practitioners of modern medicine. So this happens everywhere. If one has to have an integrated approach, one must in fact realize that you need explanations, you need a method of science which needs to be applied to traditional medicine. I'll conclude just with one example. Why are people interested in medicinal plants and in traditional medicine today? They hope that they will get leads there to the next generation of pharmaceuticals. Where do they get this inspiration from? There have been successes in the past, but the most visible success was the Chinese discovery of the anti-malarial artemisinin. And when the Chinese got artemisinin, the lead scientist on that project, a Chinese lady, Yu Tu, was interviewed, and there were lots of articles about her. And I read an article just before she won the Nobel Prize, when she got the Lasker Award. And Yu Tu describes this project. This was done during the Cultural Revolution. The Chinese were sort of gearing up to fight a land war in the jungles of Indochina. And in the jungles of Indochina, American bombs would have been less of a problem, because the bombs never got down to where they were hiding, than the mosquito carrying the malarial parasite. And therefore they were more interested in killing the parasite than they were in killing American or knocking down American planes. The result of this is they had this massive program. It was right during the Chinese Cultural Revolution. All the scientists had been sent off to work in the fields, and the rest of them were working on this one project. And this project was to screen about 2,000 to 3,000 plant extracts for anti-malarial activity in an animal model. An absolutely brutal experiment. And then there was this one plant extract which gave them some reasonable results. And what that plant extract gave them good results, but didn't give them reproducible results. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. And the question was, why did it work sometimes and why did it not work sometimes? And this is where Yu Tu's success came. She went back and read the old Chinese literature, 640 AD, and manuscripts in Chinese. And she read this and she found that the prescription is that you take the plant and you put it into water and make a decoction. But you know, when you give a chemist something to make a decoction, the first thing the chemist does is to boil it. This is why you will find things boiling in chemistry laboratories all the time. So she then thought that maybe one shouldn't heat things too much. You must only make a decoction in cold water. And then it turns out that the decoction in cold water worked perfectly well, reproducibly, and they were on their way to the discovery of artemisinin. But many years after their success, the structure of artemisinin came to be. And then it was immediately clear why artemisinin was quite unknown. It had a very rare chemical linkage, what today we call a peroxide. Sort of interesting that peroxides sometimes are used by ISRO and so on in the things which propel rockets upwards. So they're explosive molecules, they break. So the moment you heat them, they break. Now this is, of course, what I would call an example of success of traditional knowledge and modern knowledge, together combining to give a new and most impressive anti-malarial drug. This success, of course, got very wide acclaim in the scientific community. There are an enormous number of things which are still to be learned. In fact, the only thing that we must remember is everyone will remember the pandemic, although our memories are short. Already we are forgetting the coronavirus. But you can ask yourself the question, what did the coronavirus pandemic teach you? What did it teach you? It doesn't matter whether you're a practitioner of traditional knowledge or you're a practitioner of modern knowledge. What it did teach you is that nature periodically provides you the limits of human knowledge. It also tells you the limits of human arrogance. because it turns out that in the face of the coronavirus, no country, however advanced, no political party, however powerful, or no religion, however deeply its adherents hold on to it, none of them were in fact able to do anything in the face of the virus. It was only natural evolutionary processes which eventually took us through the pandemic. So we must have a great respect for nature. And I think the one thing that one can learn from traditional knowledge is that our ancestors, in fact, had that intuitive respect for the world around them. And they learned a great deal by observational science, which has been recorded sometimes in manuscripts which are available, sometimes in manuscripts which have long been lost. I must thank you once again for giving me this privilege of addressing the convocation and also for being able to substitute for Dr. Kasturi Rangan. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your kind words and reflection. You said that our memories are short, but certainly your memories are not short. And we look forward to your continued association as a mentor and scientist with our university.
It is my pleasure to call upon our registrar, Dr. Atul Kumar Gupta, to propose the vote of thanks.
Good evening, everybody. I take it as a proud privilege to propose a vote of thanks. I begin congratulating all the graduate students. I, on my own behalf and on behalf of all from TDU, wish all of you a very great career ahead. We are confident, yes, I expected that. We are confident that you will make meaningful contributions to the society and strive towards greatness in your respective fields. We do encourage you to please stay connected with us. In fact, you are going to be ambassador for us from now onwards. We are also profoundly grateful to the families and the guides of our graduate students whose unwavering support and encouragement have been the cornerstone of their success. I offer deepest gratitude and thanks to the chief guest of today's event, Professor Balram, for sparing his valuable time and accepting the chair as a chief guest. As he said, it was at a very short notice that we had to tell you, sir, and you have accepted very gladly. Sir, we look forward to your continued guidance for our research, education, and outreach programs. I thank Her Highness Pramoda Devi and Mr. Rajiv Sethi for being with us today as guest of honor and conferring the D.Litt degrees to distinguished personalities. Our deep appreciation and thanks to Dr. Sudha Gopalakrishnan, Dr. Subramaniam Ramadurai, who has since left, Professor Ashok D.V. Vaidya, and Professor Patrick Whitney for accepting D.Litt, which has made rather TDU proud, honored, and blessed. Your words of wisdom have surely inspired students and also to all of us. We entreat and solicit your persistence, guidance, and encouragement. I thank Dr. Vidita Vaidya, the proud daughter of Dr. Ashok Vaidya, for representing her father and collecting the D.Litt award. Thank you, ma'am. Thanks are also due to all the chairpersons and members of our Board of Governors, Board of Management, Academic and Research Council, and other committees, to TDU's partner institutions, and I will fail in my duty if I don't mention a specific mention of my counterpart at ETRI, Dr. Vamsi, sitting here in front of me. Why? Because it is with ATRI's association that we have been able to run an MSc course in environment science with conservation practice as a special module on that. So thank you, Dr. Vamsi, representing ATRI, and please convey this message to all people there. And all our well-wishers for their encouragement and lending their support as ever. I also thank our ever-inspiring Chancellor, Professor Sam Pitroda, and Vice Chancellor, Professor Darshan Shankar, for their constant support and guidance. Thank you, sir. Dr. Batul and Manoj, the young students at TDU, who have anchored and steered this event under the able guidance, as ever, of Dr. Megha, I think they deserve a special mention and thanks. Thank you. In closing, I would like to express our deepest appreciation and profound gratitude to all our distinguished guests, to both our deans, Professor Gurmeet and Dr. Leena, to all our faculty members, which also include emeritus professors, professor of practice, and visiting faculty, to our young researchers. I think it has been a very useful session for all of them, though they have acted as volunteers in the conduct of this entire ceremony. But in that doing so, I think they have learned a lot. And I think, I remember my own these college days. I don't think I have ever been exposed to, in a very short period of time, to be among such luminaries, as they are sitting here across us. I think our young researchers in TDU are very, very lucky, and I think very, very, they must relish this moment for life. Then, as usual, all the administrative staff, I don't want to name because a long list, but I convey my deep gratitude and thanks to all our administrative staff and all other members from TDU and IAIM who have put in their time, support, and efforts, either directly or indirectly, towards successful organization of this convocation ceremony. Thanks once again to all of you. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir, for your thoughtful and heartfelt remarks. We are now nearing to the end of our program. First, the program will be officially closed by our Vice Chancellor, Professor Darshan Shankar. Then we will play the national anthem.
The closure is done in a minute or less than a minute. On behalf of the Chancellor, I declare the convocation closed.
I request everyone to kindly rise for national anthem. We request all of you to join us for high tea, arranged next to the auditorium